Welcome back. Well, the three-day RBI or Reserve Bank of India MPC meeting is underway and we will know the decision on the 6th of June. While the clamour for a rate cut by the RBI grows, Ritu Singh is here with the details of the CNBC TV18 Monetary Policy Poll.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the RBI is expected to cut repo rates for the third time in a row, bringing it to 5.75% according to our poll. Now, while on one hand, low growth and soft inflation will build the case for a rate cut, uncertainty about oil prices, weak El Nino conditions, slow transmission of rate cuts by banks could hold the RBI's hand. But of course, the majority seems to think that the case for a rate cut is stronger. Therefore, 70% of the respondents to our poll expect the repo rate to be cut by 0.25% in this policy. 10% are even expecting a 35 basis point rate cut from the governor. For the full financial year FY20, majority of the respondents expect a 50 basis point cut. Some even expect up to 100 basis points cut. Now, on the macro picture, 70% of our respondents again expect RBI to lower the GDP growth forecast for FY20, and accordingly 70% of our respondents also expect the GDP growth forecast for the first half of FY20 to be lowered in tandem. However, for the second half of this year, GDP forecast of 7.3 to 7.4% growth may be left unchanged. Do remember, the growth had slowed down to 5-year low in the Jan-March quarter of 2019, and that may well be one of the factors that pushed the MPC to go for a rate cut. The other big factor, of course, will be inflation, and the majority of our respondents expect the CPI forecast for the first half of FY20 to be left unchanged. As for the second half of FY20, half of the respondents expect that 3.5 to 3.8% CPI projection to also be left unchanged. Do remember, CPI edged up in April to 2.92%, but it continues to remain well below RBI's comfort zone of 4%. Another factor that could again support a rate cut by the MPC. However, the economists polled by CNBC TV18 do not expect RBI to change its stance from neutral to accommodative just yet. And lastly, the statement of the policy itself, that is expected to be far more dovish compared to the previous policy.
Okay, all right, Ritu. Thanks very much for that. 100% of the participants said that they at least expect the commentary to be dovish from the RBI. 70% are expecting a 25 basis points rate cut.
So a hat trick from the RBI then?
Yes, absolutely.
In terms of rate cuts?
Yes. So they've already done 50 basis points in terms of 2 rate cuts, 25. So this would definitely be the third one. But I mean, if in case that does come through. But Reema, you're watching Bharti Airtel. Finally, they are moving ahead with their IPO plans in Africa.
Yes, and you know, this update that the company has given to the exchanges is important because this is an official communication which the company, up until now, it was speculated. They'd always said that, you know, we are going to go ahead with an Africa IPO, but what the company has told us this time is exactly how much they're looking to raise. So what they've said to the exchanges, the Africa business will proceed with an IPO on the London Stock Exchange. They're targeting to raise $750 million with a green shoe option to sell another 15%, which means the total amount Bharti's Africa arm can raise why the IPO stands at $862 million or 6,000 crore rupees if I convert it at the current exchange. Now, this is a tad bit lower than what was spoken about in the market. The street thought that the company would raise close to $1 billion, and now the company is saying at best it will be $860 million. But it's important because it helps bring down their debt which stood at 1.08 lakh crores as of March of $15.5 billion. And remember, they've already raised 25,000 crore via rights issue, which means that money will come in the current quarter, and that will help the company bring down their net debt to EBITDA from 4 times to 3 times. And over and above that, you will be getting money in from the Africa IPO whenever it happens and closes, and plus there is a potential Infratel stake sale. The stock is not reacting too much. It's down actually 0.5% because it's known, right? We've always been talking about an Africa IPO to deleverage the balance sheet for a very long time. The only incremental information is that the maximum amount the company will be raising via this will be $862 million.
Okay, all right. So that's on Bharti Airtel, down around 0.5%. But the other stock which you really need to keep on your radar is Sun Pharma, where sources have told me that the Halol facility is getting inspected. The inspection did begin this week itself. Now, remember that it is routine for all plants to get inspected by the US FDA. But what probably makes this a little more uncertain is the fact that the Halol plant is one of the most important facilities for the US in terms of sales. Around 10 to 15% of their total US sales comes from the Halol plant. And separately, remember that they have had a bit of a difficult pass when it's come to the Halol facility. They were issued a warning letter in 2015, then it got lifted in 2018 with an EIR, which was in June of 2018. So they managed to come out of that sticky situation. So a CGMP, or a general good manufacturing practice inspection, always raises a little bit of concern that you want it to go well, you don't want any sort of disruption in supplies. And remember that this year has been much tougher when it's come to inspections for a lot of facilities. For example, Cadilla's Moraya plant, which had a warning letter, got lifted, got re-inspected, got 14 observations. Aurobindo, their unit 3 got 10 observations. Many of these can be resolved, but the point is that it's been a little bit of a tougher year when it's come to audits. So let's see, maybe that's probably the little bit of uncertainty that comes with it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Ika's been talking about how the markets have slipped a tad bit. So it's a good time to take a technical check on the markets. Ashwini Gujral of ashwinigujral.com is here with us on the show now. Morning, Ashwini. How would you approach the Nifty now? Is there an index trade that you are recommending either on the Nifty or the Bank Nifty?
See, on the indices, this zone between 12,000, 12,050 on the Nifty. Similarly, 31,500, 600 on the Bank Nifty. This is a buy zone. So anybody who wanted to buy, was looking for a dip, you're exactly at the point where, from where the market could turn. Particularly, PSU banks are looking extremely good, and if the Bank Nifty has to recover, I think they could provide perfect foil. The idea here is that the person who stays long, the longest, is likely to make money. So keep a 12,000 type of a stop on the Nifty and get long, and possibly on the Bank Nifty 31,500, 550. And chances are second half we could see a bit of a rally. Having said that, individual stocks, BOI is a buy with a stop of 94, target of 106. BOB is a buy with a stop of 130, target of 142. And CAT is a buy with a stop of 995, target of 1040.
Ashwini, how would you approach, say for example, a Bajaj Finance from the financial space? You've chosen two banks, but something like Bajaj Finance, which is at a fresh high, would you recommend building positions on it at current levels?
Well, generally speaking, you should not buy at fresh highs. But Bajaj Finance is like a no-brainer. Each time you get a 5, 8, 10% correction, you can buy into it. But today NBFCs are doing extremely well. So HDFC has started picking up as we speak. Muthoot Finance, Manappuram, both at fresh highs. So I think financials are going to outperform for the rest of the day.
Bet on financials on the long side. Ashwini, stay on. We're also getting in some Twitter queries. It's coming from Vinayak. He holds 20 shares of Page Industries, bought at a price of 26,000 rupees, and he wants to know your view, and his time horizon is about 2 years. Currently, Page Industries is hovering around 20,500, 20,600. So he's making a considerable amount of loss. Ashwini, should he just stay invested, considering that Page Industries has been a wealth creator over a long term?
See, the important word is has been, because if growth is slowing down like in iShare and all of these high price stocks, then 26,000 may not come in very easily. I mean, he can try out, put another 20 here and see what happens. But these sort of consumption with stocks along with the consumption slowdown does not put him in a very good spot. So either put a firm stop maybe 18,000 and hold on, or average down and see what happens. But once you are down 30%, it becomes difficult to come back.
Okay. All right, Ashwini, we're going to let you go on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and giving us all of that perspective. Some recovery which has taken place for the markets at this point, even for the mid-cap index. So largely